Hey everybody, it is Professor Parrish and we are on week 11 of English 122. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about what is going to be due this week. The assignments are going to be due on Sunday, April 2nd. So just to give everybody a heads up, we only have 2 assignments this week. There is no quiz, but there is the discussion as well as the poetry analysis essay. So let's go ahead and we're going to talk about that. So in Module 11, you have the 3 critical case books, Emily Dickinson, Langston Hughes, and Robert Frost, that are on the pages that are listed here. So you have those 3 different sections to read for this week, and then you have discussion form 11 as well as the poetry analysis. It should be 3 to 5 pages long, which does not include sources. It's 3 pages plus your sources and should use MLA style. So in talking about this, this week we are reading from Dickinson, Hughes, and Frost. The question for the discussion forum, number 1, is which of these 3 is your favorite? Was it their writing style or the piece itself that appealed to you? Or maybe was it something else? You should add examples from your work that will help to support your answer. And that'll be the discussion forum for this week. As for the poetry analysis, the Dropbox for it is here. It is due April 2nd. You can upload it as a Word document, either a DOC or DOCX file, or as a PDF. It is worth 100 points, so please make sure you turn it in. It's not like a quiz or a discussion where if you miss it, it's not the end of the world. Most of our points are our papers, so please make sure that you turn those in. So going back to what's due in the class, we have these 3 resources here. We have our poetry analysis instructions, citing sources, and a sample works cited page. So with the poetry analysis, I'm going to go back here. Basically, you have a 3 to 5 page essay that analyzes a poem we have studied this semester using a literary element. This could include figures of speech, symbolism, themes, setting, characters, point of view, tone, or style. You'll use specific examples from the poem itself to support your analysis and include citations in the text. You need to cite the poem in both the text and on a separate works cited page. So an example of how the text should look is listed here. Like we have our author's last name, their first name, the title of the poem, the textbook itself, who it's edited by, the year, and then the page numbers. You can use external sources as well, but most of your work should be the analysis. I wouldn't worry about multiple sources. If you just cite the textbook, that's enough, right? Always remember you should use the correct MLA standard and standard American English for the essay. So the essay is worth 100 points, and how I grade it is 25% of it is the ideas themselves, like your purpose, the development, the effectiveness of it. Like, does the content work? Is your paper focused? Does it make sense? 25% of it is on your organization, how it's structured. Is it balanced? Does it stay focused? And then 25% is the writing style, which is your clarity, your conciseness, the tone. It stays professional. And then 25% is your formatting and your grammar, right? So that's kind of how it's all broken down, right? And so I say 10 points here. I'm actually, that's not correct. I'm going to change that. Late essays are not going to be penalized by 10 points, but I'm just not going to really take them. I'll probably talk to people on an individual basis with that, but basically turn your essays in on time. That's the big thing. April 2nd is the due date. I'm going to penalize your essays by more than that 10 points if they are late, but I'll talk to people on an individual basis if that happens. But don't get to that point. Turn your papers in on time. As far as citing sources goes, there is this kind of handout that goes along with that. We also have a works cited PowerPoint that's at the start of the class. It is, if I show you all where it's at, it's way up here. Under this MLA citation presentation is under our instructor page. But in citing sources, the whole point of it is that it strengthens your argument. It adds weight, it builds your credibility, which is ethos. It shows that others agree, and it allows readers to check so they can kind of see for themselves that you are correct in your research. So how do you implement that research? The main thing is that you explain why you chose the topic that you did. You know, how does this affect people? How important is it? How does it affect us as the readers, right? Usually your introduction handles all of that and kind of addresses those 3 key points. In the actual text itself, you want to use specific examples. You can use direct quotations from the poems or the text itself, Or you can even, paraphrase and say it back in your own words. So you do consider a single play or poem or short story as one source. Even if you cite it a million times, it's just one source, right? It's just that one source cited. So there needs to be implications. Why does this matter? What is the consequences of the piece that you're talking about? What questions does it raise? What possibilities might arise because of it? Like, does your poem, what does it do for us as readers? Does it make us feel certain things? How does it impact us? And then when you find research, obviously the internet is great for a lot of reasons. There's tons of options. It's always open and accessible, and it's usually current. It's up to date. So it's very quick and convenient to find sources on the internet. But there are some cons. So your source credibility, you've got to make sure that your sources are credible. It's not just from bigfootenthusiast.org, right? That it has some clout to it. There can be an overwhelming amount of sources. Like you may look up something and find there's so much to sift through research-wise, it can feel like it's too much. And then there's the possibility of plagiarism. You don't want to plagiarize. You want to make sure that you're citing correctly. So with print sources, it's kind of the opposite. On the advantages, it's in-depth, it's peer-reviewed, it's permanent, it's something that is fixed. Usually if something goes to print, and it's research, it has a bit of credibility built in, but there are disadvantages. It's usually older, maybe out of date. It may have a limited access where you can't get to the full article. If somebody's like taken an article that was published in print and scanned and uploaded it online, they may try to charge you for it. And oftentimes it's in smaller supply, so it's a little bit harder to navigate and find sources that work in this case. So you can interview someone. That is always a possibility. I think a lot of people forget that. You can interview people. It can be a credible voice. You can conduct research beforehand. You can let them talk, thank them afterwards, and cite it according to MLA guidelines. It's actually easy to cite an interview. It's literally just last name, comma, first name, personal interview, and the date. Super easy to cite. But you do need to set interviews up ahead of time. So if you do a poem that is by someone local and you want to interview that person, try to set that meeting up ahead of time so that they have time to meet with you, right? You don't want to spring it on them at the last minute and be like, oh, I got a paper due tomorrow. Can you talk to me? Right. You want to set that up ahead of time. Things that are not research. Yourself. Stuff that you know is not research. Wikipedia. Informal polls or questions or search engines such as Google, Bing, Yahoo, Cliff Notes, Spark Notes, etc. Those are not credible sources because they are not from the actual source themselves. They are just either search engines that collect them as a database, or like if it's Cliff Notes and Spark Notes, they're just a random set of notes that someone's created from other sources. You want to cite those other sources. And the reason why I say Wikipedia is never a good source to cite is because way back when I was in school, when I left SIC, I went to Illinois State, and I had a friend named Jairus, right? His name was Jairus Bellamy. That's him. That's him right there, right? So that's him. He works now. He wouldn't mind me telling you about him. But when we were in school, he got on Wikipedia back when you could edit it, and he made up a lie. He said he was Frank Sinatra's spiritual advisor and put that on Wikipedia. And Wikipedia eventually caught it. But you know what? They didn't catch it in time, because now, as you can see, in these top 3 sources of 320,000 sources, look, his lifelong spiritual advisor, Jairus Bellamy, his lifelong spiritual advisor, Jairus Bellamy, his lifelong spiritual advisor, Jairus Bellamy. All of these nonsense sources, some of which are they're all .coms, by the way, which is another sign you should be careful about the sources. They're all citing him. That is complete falseness. Hokum. This is Jairus Bellamy. He is my age. He's in his 30s. He was not Frank Sinatra's spiritual advisor. I can tell you that much. So yeah, because of that reason, you cannot trust Wikipedia. Absolutely not. It is not something that I would trust for valuable information, because anyone can edit it and it can be complete lies. So don't do that. But good research is relevant. It supports your thesis. It fits your analysis. It can be trusted. You can check credentials. You can be truthful, accurate. You can look for links, citations. Always look for an author and always see that it's from an organization that you feel can be trusted for various reasons, right? If a website doesn't have an author, be skeptical. Do extra research. Make sure to trust your source, right? And then good research is objective. It does not try to be biased. It usually discloses conflicts of interest. It's usually current, the newer the better, but that can depend on the topic. Sometimes you got to dig back into some earlier works. And it often is well-rounded. It contains multiple sources and examines things through multiple angles, right? So those are always some things to keep in mind. And if you ever have to troubleshoot, you can always use citations to support your main idea. You don't need to look for sources that necessarily echo your main points. You're just trying to provide extra support and details. They don't have to be something that is like grounded in your main specific points. They can be pretty niche if you need it to. And then when you cite, you have texts that you analyze, you have direct quotations, you have others' ideas. There's uncommon information and controversial information. So these are all the things you should be citing. Anything that is a direct quote, you need to cite. Anything that is the idea of someone other than yourself, you need to cite. Even if it's once at the end of a paragraph, that's all you need. Just one time at the end of the paragraph, at least an in-text citation to show that research. You have two options when you integrate. You can do either one. You can either do the author's name and a page number with no comma when you cite in text. So for example, you have these two sources here where it's just the author's last name and the page number. If it's a digital source and there is no page number, then you just put the author's last name. And we see that here. So you can do it either one way. Either way is fine. And at the very end, you have your works cited page. So with troubleshooting in-text citations, what appears in the in-text is your works entry. So make sure you punctuate after the parentheses. Paraphrasing usually works best. You use what we call a block quotation if you have 4 or more lines of text. I would use those sparingly, and if you have questions about that specifically, email me. And then every source you cite in a works cited page must appear in text. So if you have 4 sources at the end of your paper, there needs to be at least 4 different in-text citations to show me where you put all of that research. Right? If you have 4 different sources cited at the end of your paper and you only cite 3 in text, I'm like, where's the 4th source? So make sure that you keep track of that. And then how do I do a works cited page? Well, typically it's 12-point black Times New Roman font. It's double spaced. There's usually a header and page numbers. You alphabetize your sources and you indent each line after the first. So for example, here's a works cited page where I have Craft, Mary. Fun Times by the River and Other Tales. Tunica, Bruce Co., 2007 print. So you could see that these are just kind of like going along with the formula. And like I said, that MLA citation presentation will show you those formulas if you have questions. So don't number bullet point, just alphabetize them. Include all the information that MLA requires. Proofread it and reformat if you've copied and pasted from a citation generator. I don't like citation generators only because they're not always accurate. Sometimes they're not up to date, so be careful with that. Make sure to double check to make sure it feels right, and you can double check with that citation presentation. So we also have this other example citation page that I wanted to show you. This is just an example one. I actually took this from Miss Billman, who also teaches English 122. She had created this citation page, so I kind of borrowed it for the class. But basically, this is a good example of a citation page. It's pretty up to date. It's fine. You'll notice that books are cited a little differently than online research, right? Just a little bit differently. But again, if you have questions, please let me know. And you do get a chance to revise. So if you have questions and you want to revise your paper, I usually will give you feedback on the works cited page to show you what you should change. So yeah, that's pretty much all of the stuff for week 11. I know that's a lot to go through, but as always, if you have any questions, please email me and let me know. Make sure to email me this week, Monday through Friday. I can get back to you. On the weekends, I'm a little bit more sparingly, especially this time of year. So I hope you all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care, and I look forward to reading your poetry analyses, and I'll see you all next week for week 12 of English 122. Bye.